Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to a special edition of the Spotlight on the Community Show. We are here at the Chula Vista Elementary School District's Sound Station, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. They've been doing great things for more than 60 years. We are chatting with Marc Keehmer. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah.
Is it close enough?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good. Visual and Performing Arts Coordinator, VAPA, for the Chula Vista Elementary School District. Marc is on the show once before with his colleague Michael Bruder, the Director of Innovation. As you well know, Marc, I am a huge, absolutely massive fan of visual performing arts. And how long have you been in this field?
Oh, I have been in the arts since I was in 6th grade. I started playing trumpet in band. The only reason I signed up was so I can get out of class because it was a pull-out program. The year I joined, they put it before school, and so I was at school even longer, which was unfortunate.
They taught you a lesson.
It sure did. Trying to be a slacker and didn't work. And actually, so I started playing trumpet, and I hated it for the first couple of years. My dad, he forced me to play. He forced me to continue. His reasoning was, I bought you a trumpet, you're going to stick in band. It wasn't until about late middle school, early high school that I thought that this is really great. And then it was my senior year when I decided I want to be a music teacher. Yeah.
Really? So when you were learning trumpet as a kid, were you listening to the sounds of Al Hirt and Louis Armstrong, or whatever the case may be, or whomever, some of your dad's favorites?
I didn't do a ton of listening, unfortunately. My dad, he was a little bit older than me, obviously being my father, but just being in general, there's about a 50-year difference between us. And so we listened to kind of Frank Sinatra. That was one of the main people that we would listen to. So I listened to Frank Sinatra, but not a ton of trumpet players exclusively. And so, like I said, didn't do a ton of listening, unfortunately, but now I appreciate all the greats.
So fast forward, when did you have the light bulb to say, listen, I'm enjoying this, I'm not going to be the next Dizzy Gillespie or whatever the case may be, I'm going to get into education? When did that light bulb hit?
Yeah, that started, like I said, when I was about a senior in high school. I had a chance to be the band teacher's assistant, or as we referred to it as the Band-Aid at the time. And
I like that.
Yeah, I got to teach and work with the 6th graders and incoming 6th grade students, and it was, help them prepare for the very first concert. And it was only a semester that I had to do it because I had to take an additional credit of PE. So I only got to do it for a semester, but I fell in love with teaching and fell in love with working with kids and truly trying to help them just play music and just enjoy it and realize that this is a ton of fun.
Right. So the students that you work with here in Chula Vista Elementary School District, have these kids already been playing music, or they don't even know an instrument from upside down to inside out?
Yeah, I'm happy to say that we have our students in Chula Vista Elementary do not know an elementary education without the arts and without music at some of our sites. Yes. So our program is about 8-9 years old. And so we've had a full cycle of students kind of come through and only have the arts, which is just absolutely incredible. And so kind of depending on the site, because it does vary depending on instruments and teacher specialty, since teaching music, there are specialty programs that you can do, right, depending on your comfort level. And so students do have some sort of knowledge going into 5th, 4th, 6th grade because they kind of see that if their school does have one of those programs.
Right. I had this conversation with you when you were on before, and as you mentioned, you happened to be in this space when some money was flowing in for visual performing arts, okay? Sure. But it wasn't too long ago when it was the other way around. Right. I was always amazed that of all the things that you should never cut out of the curriculum. And of course, my math and science friends go, Drew, you're an idiot, is visual performing arts. Because you can teach, and you and I had this conversation before, maybe you can address this. There's many benefits to arts education, but one of them is you can teach any subject under the moon, whether it's physics, how to design a set, whether it is math, reading the notes, whether it is language arts, the lyrics to songs and all that. Talk about how VAPA just cuts across every aspect of the curriculum.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it is a shame that typically when funding cuts happen, that tends to be the first thing looked at.
Right.
But I believe that visual performing arts are a vehicle for learning. It's not necessarily the end-all, be-all. Right. And so while you can learn how to play this piece or you can learn how to play this instrument, you can also take those concepts and those overarching themes of the arts and implement them into any subject area. And so when you're looking at science and you're looking at the life cycles of a butterfly, for instance, there are so many different avenues and ways that you can take that. And the arts are the vehicle for learning. And so when we talk about arts education, I believe I had mentioned this last time, is the Kennedy Center divides it into 3 different categories. Arts as the curriculum, so that's what our VAPA teachers do. There's a set of standards that they're teaching and they are working towards, and students are working towards mastery of that. So then you have arts enhancement, which is you are using some sort of arts, such as the ABCs, and kids learning that song to learn the concept of the ABCs. And then you have integration, where you're taking the standards of the arts and of whatever content area, in this case it's the butterfly, the science standards, and you're blending them together so students are learning alongside each other in whatever arts form or arts discipline.
Right. We are chatting with Marc Keehmer. He is the Visual Performing Arts Coordinator for the Chula Vista Elementary School District. I'm Drew Schlosberg, Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, a special edition at that. We're the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 17th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Been doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. We were talking about, the arts. Yours is music, it's performing arts as well, correct?
Yes.
Right, exactly. Do you have an area that you enjoy it all, obviously, because you're a VAPA coordinator, but is there one area that you gravitate to more, or you see that the students like more, or it just depends on the kids, because it is all over the board?
I think it does depend on the kids, honestly, because I've seen situations where kids are not into music class, especially when I was teaching. There were some kids, no matter what I tried to get them involved in that, they just weren't having it. But when we would maybe do some more movements to music and kind of introduce that concept, they were all about it. And so I think it depends on the kid, and it just depends on how you present the material to them. If you're excited about it and you're passionate about it, there's a higher chance that they'll at least try it. Or if you kind of make it fun and you make it a game, they'll be a little bit more interested, even if that's not their default happy place.
It's so funny. I was just talking to someone about this recently, and I'm not sure where the conversation came up, probably chatting with another VAPA person, to be honest with you. And they said, well, do you remember your music teacher from junior high school? I said, I do. It was Miss Kaiser. I'm going to date myself now. It's when The Sounds of Silence came out, and all she talked about was Simon and Garfunkel. Okay. And so I went home, and I had, of course, there's no internet back in the day. We had Encyclopedia Britannicas, for God's sake, and I'm whipping through that to see Simon and Garfunkel. And so do you remember your first music teacher?
My first music teacher, well, yes, it's kind of twofold. We had a music volunteer. She would come in kind of in our class, and she'd bring her guitar and she would sing song. It was Miss Skitchy. It was one of my peers' moms. She would do that. But then my first actual music teacher was a gentleman by the name of Craig Waldrum. And so Mr. Waldrum was that 6th grade band teacher. And I came from a small town in Central California called Tehachapi. And we had one high school.
Beautiful town, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, growing up, we had one stoplight. And so, small town. And so we had one high school, one junior high, and Mr. Waldrum was the music teacher throughout. And so actually he was my music teacher for 6 years, and which was really great, and kind of getting to know him and kind of allowing him to guide me and all that, all those things. So yeah, huge shout out to Mr. Waldrum.
Is he still teaching?
He's not. He retired a couple years after I had graduated and gone to college.
Right, exactly. So, for the students that are going through, the VAPA, how are they going to use SoundStation?
Oh my goodness. They can use it as a springboard as they head into their middle school careers. And I think SoundStation is a really cool concept, especially for our 6th graders, because it is kind of directed towards them. And it takes this idea that you don't necessarily have to have this traditional routes to make music. And so with Soundstation, we are looking into music production and that side of things. And prior, before recently, it would take a big studio if you wanted to record music and all these things. Now kids need a laptop. If they have a microphone, great. If they don't, they can use a computer mic, but then they can take whatever they know how and be musical with it and create loops and create all of the other things. And so it's just kind of empowering kids to build upon the inherent creativity that they have.
So do you see them coming to Soundstation somewhere down the road? And Michael Bruder, your colleague, Director of Innovation for the district, was talking about how many kids go through here. But do you see the ones actually producing their own records here eventually? And then if they produce, selling them?
I don't see why not.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And I think you're starting to see more and more of that, of people in the K-12 space, the students developing whatever it is, robots or drones or whatever. Why not make a few extra bucks for the certainly for the schools or themselves, because it ties beautifully into entrepreneurship.
It does. And there's never been a better time to put yourself out there. With social media and everything. You have people who might not have had access to a following or just to a platform to share their creativity, but because of social media, because there are things that are able to flow so easily, I don't see why not. If this can be a space to allow people to create and then empower people to create, and they are able to take what they have, that spark that they've gotten here, take it home, try things, do things, create, and allow people to share in that art, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to come back and continue the conversation with Marc Keehmer. He is the Visual Performing Arts Coordinator for the Chula Vista Elementary School District. We'll be talking about the district receiving 2 grants from the Save the Music Foundation, and then talking about the game-changing Prop 28. And we'll also save some time of what our listeners can do to help support your efforts when we come right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
We are right back with Marc Keehmer. He is the Visual Performing Arts Coordinator for the Chula Vista Elementary School District. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to a special edition of the Spotlight on the Community Show. We are here at Chula Vista Elementary School District's Sound Station. Beautiful setup where the students are learning music, they're learning podcasting, and everything in between. Our Spotlight on the Community Show is the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 17th year. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, continuing to do terrific things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. Marc, talk about these 2 grants that you got from the Save the Music Foundation.
Yeah, we have had about a decade partnership with Save the Music, the Save the Music Foundation. And what they do is they provide instruments to schools to help provide music to students. And so we have been a recipient this year of 2 grants at 2 of our sites. One is a first-time grant recipient, so it's really excited to help that program. And one is a second-time grant recipient. recipient. And what they have awarded us with was about $25,000 worth of instruments. And
Nice.
so the instruments that they have given are what we consider ORF instruments, so xylophones, non-pitch percussion, drums, ukuleles. And those instruments, and what we do in many of our music classrooms, is to teach general music. And in Chula Vista, we have really focused in on the approach of ORF and music making. And so we have teachers who have been ORF trained. There are 3 levels. We have a group that have done all 3 levels. We have a group that did level 1 and level 2. And so it is this idea of kids learning through playing, kids kind of inherently what we do here at Soundstation is they are experimenting, they are trying, they are doing the thing. And these instruments are a very accessible way for students to explore, to create, and to get that kind of, I don't want to say immediate success, but they can hear and they can see and they can do the thing right there in front of them.
Right, exactly. Do you see that, we might have asked you this question when you were on with your colleague Michael Bruder before, that the students that are going through the VAPA, playing an instrument or performing arts, whatever the case may be, that it's turned them on so much. And we know there's always a space for some kids that love music that may not love science or math or whatever, but they really are starting to now excel in their content area because they got the confidence through VAPA.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. And I believe that the arts kind of help teach that whole child. The VAPA program itself kind of came out of this idea of there was an after-school music program. They were at one site, and the teachers and the community noticed that the kids who are participating in this after-school music program, and again, this was before we had VAPA in the district, they realized that those students were changing. And so at that point, it was like, we should invest in this, and invested we have. And so we have really allowed the arts to infiltrate any and all types of learners and getting kids to school, providing that excitement. And so I do believe that the arts impact a student's how they feel about school, how they feel about themselves, and how they feel about them even being intelligent.
Well, and I think we talk about this too, and anybody that I've been honored to interview that's in the visual performing arts, the VAPA Foundation, of course, out of city schools, and any of the folks that are teaching this, whether it's in a school district or at the school. This world we're in is pretty funky, to say the least. And one thing the arts does, and you know this better than anybody, that it brings people together. Ones who may be struggling with what has been going on, certainly in recent events, in the Middle East, and of course, whatever. Does VAPA help sort of as a calming to some extent on these things?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It provides, for lack of a better term, a blank canvas,
Right.
And you are able to shape that, mold that, paint that however you want to in response to whatever the situation is. And so actually one of the things we have here at Soundstation that Michael and I had collaborated on was one of the activities that students are kind of exploring in these different careers, which is kind of that of a music therapist. And so students are provided different songs in different scenarios, and they're trying to help this person using music. And again, it's a brief activity, but it goes to this point where when we are feeling something, more often than not, we tend to go and seek out the arts, whether that's creating or consuming.
So true.
And so if we are able to teach our students that they can create that, then they're not just consumers, they're creators within that. And so when they are feeling overwhelmed, when they are feeling excited, when they have these different feelings that life is going to throw at them, they are able to express that in a healthy way. And so I think that the arts absolutely play a part into just the human experience.
Well, listen, I think not just for kids, for adults as well.
Sure,
and
yeah.
And that's a very, very good point. And listen, not to do a therapy session here, but when people get overwhelmed, and we're in a world that can get overwhelming very, very quickly, very fast, take that step back and put on your favorite tunes, or put on your favorite play, or put on your favorite show, or whatever the case, means so much. Talk about Prop 28.
Yeah, so Prop 28 last year was voted on by the state of California, or by Californians, and it passed. And essentially what Prop 28 does is it provides specific funding for arts education throughout the state. And so there are places and school districts throughout California that don't have any arts education in their schools. And so this provides a 1%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it equates to about $1 billion, give or take, penny, to arts education specifically. And what it says is, and it's law, and so what the law says, 80% of that needs to go towards staff and towards people. And so school districts are going to be hiring arts educators and arts people to teach students. And then the other 20% of that can go towards materials or partnerships or what have you. But this is an absolute game changer for arts education in the state of California. We have a huge creative economy, and we haven't had the infrastructure and the processes to fill those jobs. And so people are coming from out of state to take these creative jobs, because throughout the arts, there's so many what are considered soft skills that are learned and taught through the arts. And so when we look at employers looking for employees, collaboration tends to be among the first things. How well you work under pressure, how well you do all these things, and you listen and you are able to express, which is all inherently what we do through the arts. So Prop 28 is going to be a huge game changer for the state of California. It's going to be a huge game changer for us here in Chula Vista, because we already have the arts. I'm so excited to continue to enhance what is already being done.
Well, and especially for those districts, as you mentioned before, that which is hard to fathom, but it is what it is, that don't have any arts education whatsoever. And now that it's law, the only way to unravel it is for people to vote it off the island, so to speak, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That's right, exactly. And, anybody that understands what it does for students, okay, and teachers, heaven forbid, right, and VAPA coordinators and everybody else, it's absolutely huge in that area. And if that are other states following that rule? Yes, no?
Not that I'm aware of, but I do know there are other states who, similar to Texas, Midwest, they have funding for the arts. They do it. It was never a doubt that they would.
Yeah,
yes.
I got it. We're chatting with Marc Keehmer. He's the Visual Performing Arts Coordinator for the Chula Vista Elementary School District. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to a special edition of Spotlight on the Community show here at Chula Vista Elementary School District's Sound Station. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, and the Spotlight on the Community show is the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 17th year. What can our listeners do to support what you're doing here at Sound Station and VAPA in general?
I think listeners, what they can do is they can ask their school about what are they doing in the arts, and they can volunteer, and they can ask to help, and they can just be inquisitive and start asking lots of questions. If their school district or their school doesn't have the arts, they can ask, hey, what are plans for Prop 28? And if that conversation hasn't begun, let's start that conversation. Let's figure out how we can get more kids more access to the arts, because whether it's here in Chula Vista or throughout San Diego County or even the state of California, we need people. And so we need people in the arts. If anyone knows any teachers, we are going to be hiring teachers. And so there is going to be a ton of jobs in California for arts educators. And so come on over. California is a wonderful place.
That's great. Marc, how do people get a hold of you?
You can email me, marc.keehmer@cvesd.org, or give me a call. Our number is 619-425-9600. I am at 181316.
Very, very good. Always a pleasure to talk to you. It's one of our top subjects is VAPA. Again, wishing you and your colleagues, Michael Bruder and Superintendent Reyes and everybody that works with you folks, nothing but great success. Enjoy the heck out of this sound station. I know you are already doing it, and we're going to look forward to coming back in and doing a remote somewhere down the road. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Drew.
You bet.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.